Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I'm here for Poppystamps today, and I have a Christmas card for you. I know it's only August, but it was just a reminder to myself that Christmas is coming in this half of the year, and so it's great to get started on those Christmas cards, especially because there's lots of products becoming available for the holidays, especially from Poppystamps. They have beautiful stamps and dies. Also, a reminder to use those Distress Oxide inks for stamping, especially on Kraft cardstock. I have another video where I did that, and I'll link to that here, but I just wanted to remind myself to use those Distress Oxide inks, not just for beautiful techniques, but also for stamping. So I have a piece of Gina K Kraft cardstock. I've cut the 8.5 by 11 piece in half, and I'm going to just stamp all of my stamping because I am going to cut these out with the coordinating dies. So I'm going to close my Tonic Studios Tim Holtz stamp platform there and pick up this stamp set. Is called Poinsettia Delight, and it's absolutely beautiful. I love how they have the faux stitching as the veins on the flowers. It's just really, really fun and pretty. I like that you get a really large flower, a smaller flower. There's also lots of leaves, and then they have the dies that match all of the pieces of stamps. So now I am going to use, let's see, I used Barn Door from Distress Oxide Inks. Now I'm going to use Lucky Clover, and I like this combination on the Kraft, especially the red. I think red stamped on Kraft looks phenomenal, and you can't do this with die stamps. Honestly, the red will just sink into the Kraft. It'll end up looking muddy and brown, and it just won't be Christmassy and beautiful. So if you're going to stamp on Kraft, definitely get some Distress Oxide Inks. Okay, I am using the Poppystamps Merry Outline die set. It's 2 dies that come in the set. You get the large outline die, which is this one here that I'm cutting out of red cardstock, and then you get the smaller like inside letters. You can use these separately, absolutely. They both are fine separately, but using them together and cutting one out of cardstock and one out of gold foil, oh, it's so pretty. I love it. So I just, those little gold foil letters kind of stuck to my plate, so I just used a craft knife to pick them up. And then we will layer those on top of each other. It's very easy to do. But before I do that, I'm going to cut out those poinsettias. I left this to last because I wanted that Distress Oxide ink to dry. The part of using Distress Oxide inks on Kraft is that it stamps so beautifully. You do have to give it a little time to dry if you're not going to heat set it before you run it through your die cut machine. Now we are ready to start putting this card together. I am using some Therm mixed media liquid adhesive. Just put a few dots on the back of those gold letters and then lay them down on top of the shadow outline there. And then I'm just going to lay my acrylic block on top to make sure that it stays flat and dries really nicely while I move on to the next letter. And then just kind of keep moving down that word there, and everything will lay nice and flat and dry. And I am using a thin applicator tip. The tip that comes on the liquid adhesive, the mixed media adhesive, is fine, and you could absolutely use it for these letters. It's not too thick at all. I just happen to have this bottle with the fine tip applicator ready to go, and it allows me to get really tiny dots so that too much doesn't squeeze out the sides there. So now while that's drying a little bit, I'm going to start laying out my flowers and leaves. And I thought I would like to have everything kind of at the top with the Merry at the bottom. So I'm just placing these down, layering them on top of each other. I'm not going to use foam adhesive this time. I am just going to use the tape runner. So I just want to give a general idea of how everything's going to look together before I start adhering it down. I kind of like this, and then I think I am going to do some sub-sentiment stamping as well and heat embossing. So first I'm going to adhere all the other stuff so that I know exactly where I'm going to put those little mini sentiments, and so I need to adhere everything down. I am just using the Therm Memory Runner XL. It's my favorite tape runner, and you do get a little bit of time before things are really stuck for good, which is nice, especially when you're doing clusters like this, to be able to kind of pick it up and move it around. I'm going to flip it over and cut off anything that's hanging off the edge there, and now I'm going to use the same exact tape runner to adhere down my shadow with my die Mary there. put everything back in the platform. I'm going to use some anti-static powder tool to make sure that none of that white embossing powder is stray on my card. I'm going to stamp it with some Versamark ink, some nice embossing sticky ink, and then I use some fine detail white embossing powder and heat set that. I have a top folding note card which is actually 5.5 wide and 4.25 tall. So I just cut the paper differently than I normally do. I cut it in half horizontally rather than vertically to create that shaped card. And now I'm going to use that same liquid adhesive, the mixed media adhesive, to adhere some pretty pink posh gold sequins. These are the confetti sequins that don't have the hole in the middle, just a slightly different look. And I think they coordinate really nicely with that gold foil Merry sentiment. And that's it. So my first Christmas card of 2018 is done. I reminded myself to use some stamping when I use my Distress Oxide inks, and I love the Kraft with the red. If you're interested in the supplies that I use, they'll all be linked down below. If you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you can do that here or check out my blog, and I'll have a couple of other videos that you might be interested in. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. Have a wonderful day.